The next educational leader is a new type of leader. The 21st century has been and will continue to be marked by technological innovations that call all educational stakeholders to rethink their role and to reconsider what their expectations are of the people they are involved with. These technological innovations, including but not limited to Twitter, Skype, blogging sites, have given individuals the ability to create and nourish a personal learning network that far exceeds the reach of any professional learning network, and that a person can access and interact with thinkers and educational stakeholders from all over the world, thus widely expanding their expertise and interests. This puts a lot more potential in the hands of individuals, and so dictates a change in the way educational leadership is considered and carried out. It is important to redefine the traditional identity of the educational leader. The 21st century demands a self-directed nature. That means that all educational stakeholders need to see themselves and to be considered educational leaders. This means that superintendents, administrators, teachers, and students alike all need to define their form of educational leadership as it pertains to their own sphere of influence. It is this sphere of influence where a distinction between groups can be made. A superintendent has a rather wide sphere of influence in that they oversee many schools or large portfolios that can impact the practice of many different communities and individuals. This should be compared to a teacher, whose influence is more focused, but probably more intense as it falls upon a specific class of students that they see daily. Whatever the role, all educational stakeholders need to consider how they should impact their sphere of influence given the realities and possibilities of the 21st century. The next administrator. The role of administration, either at board or school level, needs to be transformed to fully realize the potential of 21st century learning. In the past, professional development had to be controlled and developed by administrators, because they were the ones with access to resources and so had to lead initiatives. This meant that most initiatives followed a top-down model of delivery, with classroom teachers being the receiver of information and new pedagogy. This also facilitated the creation of resource specialist teachers that were commissioned to bring new ideas to the frontline stakeholders, the classroom teachers. With the pervasive reality of social networking tools like Twitter, Skype, and blog sites, teachers are now more than capable of navigating the professional landscape and suggesting directions for their own professional learning. The TCDSB has taken bold steps in this direction, with the encouraged use of self-directed professional development days, and so needs to continue down that road. This self-direction needs to be more clearly articulated and shared across the board, and so administration needs to move away from the role of controller to become one of consultant. Administration needs to familiarize themselves with new techniques and technology, so as to make suggestions and set direction for initiatives, but can rely much more heavily on the suggestions and directions made by teaching staff. This move away from top-down and towards grassroots should lead to increased buy-in and energy, since the practitioners have ownership of what they are asked to do. While the role of administrator certainly needs to move away from controller towards consultant, it should not be seen as a passive or non-participatory one. Administrators are needed to establish a framework and structure to the personalized professional development that teachers are suggesting. They need to look at their schools or areas and establish a clear and consistent plan so as to eliminate redundancy or conflicting work. With so many options and resources available to educators, administration must be curators that offer perspective and a vision to personalized professional learning. This is truly the next role of leadership, as the skill of collecting information or ideas is no longer needed, but the ability to harness and direct them is essential. The next teacher. This essential role of curator is equally imperative in the next teacher. Teachers are no longer required to collect and deliver information for their students. The internet makes almost all information immediately accessible, but students require a context for that information and the skills to properly and safely navigate it. Teachers, like administrators, need to resist the top-down approach in their own classes and look for ways to encourage collaboration, creativity, and communication among their students. They need to leverage the possibilities that are sitting in front of them and utilize the technology that the students bring with them. By moving away from the role of the sage on the stage and towards that of the guide on the side, teachers move along the continuum of 21st century learning. Like the next administrator, The next teacher should not see their role as diminished in this new era of education. The skill of critical thinking is so fundamentally important in this century that it needs to be given special attention by educators. While access to so much information and such incredible tools of communication allows for previously unthinkable things, it also brings perils that were not an issue even a decade ago. This is where the classroom teacher has to be very proactive and look for ways to develop critical thinking skills in their students. Students need a guide or facilitator that can offer suggestions for how to navigate the digital landscape and a role model to look to as an example of how to effectively collaborate and communicate in the modern world. The teacher should embrace this new role and personalize their professional learning so as to move along the 21st century learning continuum. The next student. Again, the idea of educational leadership needs to be reconsidered in the 21st century, giving all educational stakeholders increased freedom and responsibility, and the same must be applied to students. Gone are the days when a student could sit passively at their desk waiting for the teacher to deliver the learning. The 21st century demands a much more active and critical citizen. This century demands a citizen that can use collaboration and communication to creatively problem solve and constantly reinvent themselves, to fit the ever-changing professional landscape before them. In short, it will demand a different type of graduate. Students need to look for and truly demand a more active voice in their classes. They need to apply the creative and collaborative tools they use socially, like Twitter and Facebook, to their learning, so as to truly personalize their education. They have to take the lead in their own learning and resist the temptation to accept a top-down model simply because it is easy and comfortable. They must look for and be given opportunities to personalize their own learning and develop their critical thinking and problem-solving skills with an eye toward becoming what is articulated in the Catholic graduate expectations as someone who is a self-directed, lifelong learner.